Hey guys, I wanted to go over today a couple of the really basic tips for how to go about creating your first video. So the things I'm going to cover today are going to be how to import media, how to do the cutting and trimming of media in Adobe Premiere Pro, how to use the razor tool, and just a few really basic things to get you started and how to make your first video. As always, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put those in the comment section below and I'll do my best to try to answer them. So let's get started. Okay, so open up your Adobe Premiere Pro, click on whatever project you're going to be working on, and if you don't know how to set up a new project, go ahead and watch my previous video. I talk about how to set that up. And this is what it's going to open up like. You're going to have your 4 panels typically. I've got my 5th just because it's remembering how I had it set up last time, which is the effects over here. But normally you just have your 4 panels. So we've got the project with the import media to start, your timeline, which is where your sequences go, your program. This shows, it basically plays for you what your sequences look like all put together. And then this one is typically the source, whatever clips you're looking at. So I'll go into these more and show you. It's easier to show you than to try to explain it. So let's get started here. To import the media, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can double click on the import media square and then it'll pull up all your folders and you can find your folders, find your video and click on it and then hit open. That's one way to do it. The way I like to do it though is I will just go into my Finder, find my folders here. I already have it pulled up here. So let's say you find your folder with all your video content that you want to move over. All you do is drag it and drop it. It'll take just a minute. And this created what's called a bin, and your bin has all of your folders. You can drop it down and it'll show all the different videos in here. One other thing is if you open this up and it doesn't show up in this format with these 4 different panels, you can go to Window, click on Workspace, and then click on Editing. It also has the keystrokes there too. And so that will basically reset the workspace to look in this format with every single panel in this spot. Basically all these different settings, it's just the panels are in different locations to work better for whatever project you're working on. But it doesn't change the panels themselves, if that makes sense. So to see what a clip is, let's say I'm like, I don't know what this clip is, so you double click it and it's going to show it right up here. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. And there was just kind of this cool tree that I decided to take a video of. Let's say I don't want to move that entire clip over. Let's say I just want to move part of it over. So I'm going to drag it over to here. Let's say we start at the bottom of the tree and then you hit the key I, and that's going to create an endpoint. Okay, and then I hit play again. The other thing too is instead of clicking this play button, it shows it right here, in the parentheses space, the space bar. You can also hit the space bar to make it faster, and then hit the space bar again to stop. Okay, and then let's say I want to stop about right here. Then I'm going to hit the key O, and that's going to create the output. So now I've just trimmed up this clip, and I'm going to drag it over. So there's a couple ways to do that. You can do that with these buttons here, the insert, but I find it just easier to just drag and drop. So I'm going to drag and drop it into my timeline, and I have my first sequence. One thing you really want to pay attention to is what is highlighted. in your Adobe Premiere Pro. So right now, see this blue line? This is highlighting my timeline, which means if I hit the space bar, it's gonna show in my program the sequence. Versus if this is highlighted, okay, so now the blue line's around here and I hit my space bar, now it's just gonna continue playing the source clip. And this is just the clip in its entirety that came over. One thing to note, this is super, super, super important, is that the files themselves are not getting imported. So if I was to go over here, let's say I was to delete this clip, and this was the first one that I moved into my sequence. Let's say I deleted this. What's going to happen is Adobe Premiere Pro would show up with an error, and let's say I'm trying to play this, and it's going to show up with an error here, and it's going to say that it can't find this clip. And that's because, again, the files themselves are not getting imported, so you need to keep those original files. So if you want to save space, one of the things I will oftentimes do is in the files that I'm actually keeping on the computer. Let's go.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. Take a look at the help section in your website.
So if I want to save on space, one of the things I like to do is I will actually trim it on the computer. So use whatever computer built-in program you have for trimming. And so the thing is, it's harder to get it a little bit more fine-tuned to where you want it, because it kind of just generalizes it. So I'll do like a little extra, go ahead and trim, and then same thing on this side, a little extra trim. And let's say I don't ever want to use the first part and the last part, I'm fine with completely deleting that. Then I would hit save as, and then it'll go ahead and trim that clip for me. I'm gonna do it as, yeah, trim, but I don't want to save it there. Save it. Yeah. So it's gonna be the 540 trim. Okay. And it only saves a couple seconds, but I figure I'm gonna be making a lot of video footage, so every little bit helps. So then I would just go ahead and I would delete that, which I'm not gonna do right now, but that's what you can do to save permanent space on your computer. Please, please, please don't delete your original file. Just because it's moved in here doesn't mean you can delete it off your computer. If you want to do that at some point, what you have to do is be completely done with your project, and then you'll have to export it. I'm going to go through a video on how to export later. And once it's exported, it's good. You're able to delete it off your folders on your computer without any issues. Now let's say you want to move another clip over into your timeline, but you don't want the audio, you just want the video. So I'm going to give an example of that. Okay, so now I've got some pretty flowers from Winthrop. Okay, and this goes all the way to the beginning. So I'm going to play that again. The difference between these two, this one goes all the way to the beginning or all the way to the end. You can see the blue indicator here. All the way to the beginning, all the way to the end. What these ones do is they go back exactly one frame. So that's one frame, another frame, another frame, another frame. So if you want to get really detailed on where you want your in point and out point to be, you can go frame by frame. So for right now, let's say I just want the flower part. So I'm like, okay, hit this, and I'm gonna stop right there. So I'm gonna hit my O, and now it's just highlighted this section. And notice these two icons. You've got drag audio only and drag video only. So I'm gonna click that, click it, and drag the actual icon, move it over. I'm gonna move it into my timeline. And you'll also notice this, when I drag this closer, it kind of like magnetizes itself to the previous clip. So when I play it, it moves directly to the next clip. just like that. And it's just a simple cut transition here. And you can do the same with just audio. Let's say you have some talking that you're doing that you really want to include. You would just drag the audio, drag it, and it would pop down here where your audio is. Another way to do this, and this is something you also need to pay attention to, are what's highlighted here. So we've got the V1, so this is video 1, A1, audio 1. So I can do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So I'm going to highlight it, hit the key delete, and we're going to do this again, and I'm going to unhighlight this, what was blue highlighted here for the A1, and then I'm going to drag this over. I'm not hitting this, I'm just hitting this, drag it over, and it does the exact same thing. But if I click this and I drag it, there's the audio. You can see it right there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete. Okay, now we're doing audio only. Let's say I only want the audio. I don't know why I would only want the audio in this clip, but it's just as an example. This is only highlighted, so that's the only thing that was transferred over. And they're both highlighted, and it brings both over. Okay. Another thing you can do is, like, let's say you don't want to use the source clip thing to trim it. You can move the video directly over. So I'm going to just move this one over. Again, just drag and drop it over. And then it does a simple cut to this. This is another flower scene I took with my beautiful dog Chinook. And instead of doing the I and the O keys, what you can do is, let's say I play this and I want it to stop right there. You grab where this red arrow with the bracket is, drag it in, and again, I love the way this program works. It kind of magnetizes itself to this blue line, which is the indicator of where you want it to stop. And there you go. The other thing that you really need to know is that Control Z is going to be your best friend. Let's say something happens, you don't know what you pressed, and this happens all the time to me. Hit Control Z and it'll bring it back to what it originally was. So let's say I want to just forget the flowers. I'm going to start with where Chinook is, which is right there. Drag this in, and then you can drag it over. And then this line, this nice black line pops up. That black line that was there is showing that these two are now connected, and so it's just a simple cut transition between the two. So there's a couple ways to trim it, right? You can trim it in the source panel. You can also trim it here using these arrows. And then the other way you can do it is by using this razor tool. So right now it's on the selection tool, and that's why we're able to grab it, select it, drag it, move it around. But if we change our tool to the razor tool, now it shows this razor symbol. And another way you can activate the razor tool is just by hitting the key C, which it shows in parentheses there. And the other way to go back to the selection tool is hitting the key V, which it shows in parentheses there. But to use this tool, let's say I want to split a clip up. So I go ahead and split it right there. And then I'm going to go back to my selector tool because I'm done using the razor. And say I want to, let's see, I drag this over, I can drag this out, I can drag this out, and it's using that original clip. It just created a division, but with the razor tool, you're able to pick a spot, divide it up. There it is. Select, and let's say I'm just going to delete this middle section. So I'm going to hit the delete key, and I drag this over. So that's if you want to delete a section. Another thing you can do is you can create a division between the two videos, and let's say you want to bring this either in or out. You can do that as well. just like that. So there's a lot you can do with just these very simple tools here. The razor, the selection tool, and then also just dragging this around. Now let's say these are all together and you want to add something to the beginning. Let's say you want to add either a title or you want to add another clip and you're like, I don't really want this to be my first clip. So you can just make sure it's on the selection tool. You go ahead and grab, drag, highlight all these, and then you can move them, all of them. So we'd move them forward. I could add another clip in here. I'm just going to show an example. Oh, that clip's huge. So I'm actually going to move it up here so I can see them all. This I'm going to move over. And these I can move in. Just like that. And now I just added a different clip in at the beginning. Or let's say I want to add a clip in the middle between these two. I can drag this one over. I'm going to go down here. Drag that in and then again select and bring it over. And there we go. Now we have a different clip in the middle. One thing to notice too is this yellow bar here. This yellow bar means that during the playback, so when I'm hitting this and playing back, it's a little slow. Might be a little choppy. So the way to fix that is you want to go to sequence, render in to out. And then click that, and then it's showing that it's rendering these frames. So now you can see this bar is green here, and if I play it, I can go all the way back to the beginning by clicking this. These are the same ones as here. Play it, and it goes a lot smoother. Thanks guys for watching, and stay tuned because I'm going to be putting out a lot more videos coming up soon on just all the beginner stuff and tips for how to work with Adobe Premiere Pro. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. I have my new subscribe button a little easier to reach. It's right here on the screen, so you can just look for it there. All right, see you guys in my next video.